What's going on, everybody? This is Justin in Rochester with Purple and Gold for Days, and I am with my compatriot Mike Castellino from the Mic'd Up Podcast. How's everybody doing today? We are reacting to the Vikings' first-round pick of Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC by way of Pittsburgh. Mike, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited for day 2 of the draft in a few hours. I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Justin?
I'm good. We had our live super show last night, so if anybody didn't get a chance to tap in with that, go on Purple and Gold for Days. It was an absolute party. It was an absolute blast. I want to thank SK, Rap, Dave, Gigi, as well as Mr. Madison, Alexander Madison's father, joined us for a little bit. Had some technical difficulties for here and there, but he was with us when we were live with the Vikings' first overall pick. So let's start with there. The Vikings decide not to trade up to take quarterback Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, which wasn't very, very likely to begin with. Let's just be clear. I mean, I was Rich Gang all day and would have loved for it to happen, would have loved to have seen it, but realistically wasn't all that surprised when it didn't happen. Your thoughts, Mike, on the Vikings standing pat and taking a wide receiver?
I'm not really surprised either. Like you said, it would have cost the farm to go up there to 3. If you go and look at what Houston gave up, it was 2024 first, 2024 third, and 33rd overall. So or 34th overall, whatever it was. So it doesn't really surprise me. But the receiver pick, I love it. I thought they might trade down, but I found it very telling, Justin, that when Kevin O'Connell said we stuck to the plan, I think Kwesi would have considered it because he's the trader at heart. But Kevin O'Connell wanted his guy. He was tired of having to search for a wide receiver too, after they lose Thielen, and now they got it in Jordan Addison.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And I think he was trying to trade out to the very last minute. I mean, they took
I bet he was
59 seconds on that clock. So to me, I think that Kwesi was desperately trying to still make a deal. But ultimately, there were some reports, particularly from Derry Doogie Wolfson, that a couple of teams were trying to trade up, but they were afraid that one of those teams was actually going to take Addison. So they didn't want to trade back and risk not having him in the first place. So having said all of that, I'm glad that they stuck with the plan, so to speak. I'm glad that they didn't trade back because, when Seattle was on the clock, not a single wide receiver had been taken yet. And for the first time, I believe, in NFL draft history, 4 wide receivers went consecutively. Obviously, my first choice would have been Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Addison would have been my second. But once those first 3 went going, I was like, all right, unless you are blown away by an offer, you stand pat here and you take that wide receiver that you wanted to go with. Let's get some shout outs in here. Dave is in the house. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Super Will is in the building. Good to see you, Super Will. How's life treating you, my friend? And we also got Andrew. What's up, man? Love KO, said day 1 starter, and I do agree. And frankly, whether he really means that or not, or whether that's to say, hey, you know what? We got 3 really good wide receivers in the house. There's going to be some competition. Or maybe he's saying, hey, despite all of these rumors that we're going to become a more run-heavy team, maybe we are going to have 3 wide receivers on the field quite a bit. Skull, you two, keep it up the next 2 days. Thanks for joining. Hey, we got Nano in the building. Thank you kindly. What's up? We chilling, man. We chilling. He says stand pat and take Clark Phillips. We'll get to that in a second. And no, Bob, I don't have time to do a mock today, but thanks for joining us. We very do much appreciate it. This gets up into the next question that I was going to ask you, and that's one of the things we have on our docket. Do you think they're going to trade up to get a quarterback? You ran the spaces earlier today, had some conversation about it, but do you think the Vikings are in line to possibly trade up to get either Will Levis or Hendon Hooker, or do you think that the price is going to be a little bit too prohibitive? What do you think, Mike?
I think they would do it if it was at the right price. I think if they could trade their 2024 second and maybe a 5th, they do it. I don't think, though, it's going to happen, if I'm being perfectly honest. Apparently, the Colts might go and take Will Levis, as they already have Anthony Richardson do a Kirk Cousins RG3 thing, a throwback with Washington, which would be hilarious if they did that. But no, I don't think the Vikings will take a trade up for a quarterback. I do want to say this before I throw back to you, Justin. Appreciate everyone who subscribed to the Mic'd Up podcast channel. We got about 19 new subscribers yesterday, so much appreciated, guys.
Absolutely. I want to thank everybody who also subscribed yesterday to Purple and Gold for Days. I didn't run a count, but at the end of the day, I know my number's higher, as well as all of the other channels, Purple Pocket Podcast, Minnesota Sports Talk, Purple and Scold Media, as well as GG Sports. And if y'all haven't subscribed to any of those channels yet, go check them out and give them a sub for us. But yes, thank you everybody who's joined into the Purple Gang family and subscribe to us there. As far as Will Levis goes, to me, I'm going to say the same thing I said yesterday. If he somehow, some way, and it's not going to happen, but somehow, some way, if he were to fall to 87, I'm okay taking him there. I'm not okay giving up next year's first-round draft pick. I'm not okay giving up next year's second-round draft pick. Yeah, if you traded 87 and, say, a Danielle Hunter and maybe some fourth-round pick next year, I'm listening to something like that. But this team has been hamstrung by Rick Spielman's last couple of years, where we've had salary cap issues up the wazoo. We haven't had a whole lot of draft capital. I'm not interested in giving up next year's draft capital. I'm interested in keeping that capital. And if you are in the line of moving up for another quarterback next year, that you have that capital available. Having said all that, do I think it's possible they might? Yeah, I do. I honestly do. I think that they are still in the thought process that I've had, which is get your quarterback in the building this year and sit behind Kirk Cousins while you have him on the last year of his deal. Because let's say you do trade for a quarterback next season, but you want to sit him for a year. Well, that means you either have to extend Kirk Cousins, who's already told you he doesn't want to take another one-year deal, or you have to find a journeyman backup quarterback to be the bridge quarterback, in which case you're paying $28.5 million for Kirk Cousins on dead cap, plus whatever you pay that journeyman. So I could still see it possible. I agree with you. It's got to be at the right price. It's got to,
yes.
I don't want to be giving up first or seconds from next year, but everything's good. The wedding is tomorrow. All right, Super Will. I couldn't remember if it had happened yet already. So congratulations to our boy, Super Will. He actually came on a podcast with me and Rap and a few other people to announce that he had just gotten engaged. So congratulations to him there as well. Will Levis is not the guy, but I could be wrong. Super Will, I'm with you. I've kind of been out on him. Now, part of it is because I was really sold on getting somebody like Anthony Richardson. And my thought process now is that if they really loved Will Levis, I don't know that they would have passed up on him. But what do you think, Mike? Do you think that there's still genuine interest in him? What do you think?
I doubt it. Just because I said it on the stream yesterday with all you guys on the draft party. If you were going to take Will Levis, you could have traded down, picked up a pick, and then taken him at like 27. And the Bills did end up trading up, like I said, to take a tight end. So, yeah, I don't think the Vikings are going to. No, never say never. It's the NFL draft. You don't ever want to give your cards away. But I'd be pretty surprised.
I think that the Bills would have taken Addison if they were able to trade up. I don't think they would have taken the tight end.
And I think that's part of it, right? Like, I think that's part of it, too, is that's where we don't really know, right? Because if they were so dead set on Addison, we don't know where Levis is on the board. He might be completely off the board depending on how he met with them. We have no idea.
My stance at this point is I would rather wait around till like round 4 and take a DTR or re-examine the possibility of trading for Trey Lance at this point, because again, taking DTR in the 4th round or trading, a 3rd round pick next year or something like that for Lance is going to be a little less expensive than a Will Levis. I understand that Will Levis is looked upon higher than DTR and that Trey Lance is already eaten up half of his rookie contract. And if you're going to sit him behind Kirk Cousins, then you've only got 1 year plus his 5th year option to be able to do something there. But I would still rather take my chances with one of those two guys than Will Levis myself. The stories that'll never end, we'll start with this. Vikings running back Dalvin Cook. There are rumors upon rumors that always circulate when you're talking about running backs. But in the last week and a half or so, there's been a lot of rampant speculation that it's a done deal that he's going to the Miami Dolphins. Somebody actually suggested, could we trade Dalvin Cook for Miami's 3rd? I said, good luck with that. Give Kwesi a lifetime contract if he gets Miami to give up their 3rd round pick for Dalvin Cook. But do we think we finally see the end of the Dalvin Cook saga in Minnesota, so to speak, by the end of this draft weekend? Or do you think that's going to mosey its way on till post-June 1st?
I wish it'd be the end today or tomorrow. I don't think so. And the more and more I think about it, Justin, I get worried that the team that they have this pre-negotiated trade with is going to pull out last second, and we're screwed, and we're going to end up having to cut him.
That's what you said.
I would like them to get this done today or tomorrow. Honestly, do I think they're going to? No, I'm sick of this song and dance, though. I'm so over it. It's getting old. It is what it is. And this is the other thing, too, I wanted to touch on. With Jahmyr Gibbs going to the Lions yesterday, now teams are calling on DeAndre Swift, which doesn't help the Vikings' favor at all because Swift is cheaper and younger.
That's true. It's one of those deals. If there's an offer on the table, it's something that's been said a couple of times the last couple of weeks. It's one thing to be patient and to not sell yourself short. It's another thing to be too patient and end up losing value that you have. As an example, let's say you've got a car that you know, all right, maybe I'll keep this car for one more year, or maybe I'm just going to get a new car now. If I sell this car right now, I could get $5,000 cash for it, but I'm going to try and see if I can get $7,000 for it. And if you're patient and you end up getting an offer for $7,000, then you look great for being patient. However, if you get too patient and next thing you know, you can only sell that car for $3,500, it's like, oh, well, I wanted to get more and I ended up losing out on that deal because I didn't get as much as I could have gotten at some point. If Kwesi ends up trading Dalvin Cook and you get even a 6th or a 5th round pick for him, that's fine. But I don't think at this point for me, but then again, that's why you and I are sitting here making content and we're not the general managers. I think he might be holding on to his chips a little too long here and holding those cards closer to the vest than is absolutely necessary. I think that at this point, whatever you can get for Dalvin Cook, you make it happen. If you're thinking he can be part of a trade package that's going to make you move up a round or two, I just don't see it. We'll get back to Danielle in a minute, but Super Will brought it up here. Let's talk about Za'Darius Smith. We haven't heard anything from him or anything about him for weeks upon weeks, which could mean that they've got something lined up, could mean that they're still looking to get something better for him. To me, you know, he's under contract for $14.5 million, 5 of which is guaranteed. So if they cut him, they will free up some money, but they wouldn't have freed up as much money if they had already cut him prior to the beginning of free agency. What do you think's going on with Za'Darius Smith? Are they going to try to keep him? Are they going to try to re-sign him, make him happy? Are they looking for a trade partner? What do you think's going on with Za'Darius, Mike?
I think he's going to get traded. I may come off, wrong about this take in about, 2 months' time, but I just feel like this is the guy that gets traded by the end of the draft. I think it has to be. I mean, the shoe has to drop at some point. Like they're on all they can't pay Jordan Addison right now. If they wanted to pay Jordan Addison today, they could not afford it. So to talk about UDFAs, right? Like you want to be in on the UDFAs. That's a relevant thing every single year. You got Ryan Wright last season, who was a productive UDFA out of Tulane, the punter. So I just don't see how they don't get somebody off this roster before the draft, because if you want to be on UDFAs, you need that money now.
Yeah. Shout out, Mateo. What's up? Thanks for joining us. Both Dalvin and Z need to be gone at this point over both of them out here acting like they are digs. Well, there is that. They both need to calm down a little bit on that. And what's funny about it is what I said about Za'Darius is like, okay, if you're not happy and you want to be traded, then keep your dirty laundry in-house, because guess what? You torpedo your value when you come out and put it on blast on social media that, hey, it's been fun saying all your goodbyes and, hey, I'm selling my house. It's like, why don't you wait until the deal is done so that it's easier for you to get to a place that you might want to be traded to, et cetera. I love Mateo's analogy here. We need a Lamborghini, but the problem is the only quarterbacks left were Fords. All right, fair enough. I like that. We have 3 people that need to be traded. Yeah, again, to me, Cook, Smith, if I could find
I wouldn't say Hunter. Yeah,
Hunter, again, is a tough situation. We'll just go through that here one more time. His contract cap number right now is $13 million, but if they trade or cut him prior to June 1st, his dead cap hit becomes $18, so it's negative $5 million. Now, yes, if you told me right now that you could take your 3rd round pick in Danielle Hunter and trade up to the top of the 2nd round and get a Joey Porter Jr., I'll be willing to eat that extra $5 million in dead cap space. Saying something like that, Danielle Hunter is only under contract for $4.9 million in cash and $5.3 with incentives, which even at 29 and even with a guy who has had some injury issues the last few seasons, that is markedly undervalued, markedly under market value for him. So you're kind of in a catch-22 where, he's 29 years old. He doesn't fit the Kwesi mold of wanting to keep guys that are, 24 to 26. It's a tough situation, Mike, because on one hand, you might not be able to get much for him, and on the other hand, you don't want to give him too much money. So what do you do with Danielle Hunter? What do you do?
Honestly, if I try to predict it, I feel like I've said, everything at this point. You could trade him. You could try to renegotiate. You could extend him, right? I just – and maybe I'm crazy. I just feel like they are going to somehow come to a redone contract where he – they rip this up and they give him a 1-year deal for like $15 million. I don't know why I feel that way, but I just feel like he wants to play with Flores, and it's going to happen.
Flores wants him.
Yeah, I think it's similar to both, where they're just going to somehow find a way to make this work. I don't know how, but I think it's going to happen.
Well, like I said, I would be happy to see Danielle Hunter back on this team. I hope that they don't break the bank to get him because, like I said earlier, we're having to take these next couple of seasons to clean up the salary cap mess and to recover draft assets, to turn this roster over, to get younger, to get better, to improve upon the 13-4 season that they had and possibly take those next steps. But having said all that, does Danielle fit in that? I don't know. I would love to see him. I would love to see him on this team with a defensive coordinator like Flores who will actually use him and other guys like Harrison Smith the right way so that you're not dropping Za'Darius and or Danielle Hunter into zone coverage 3-4 times a game. You do that 3 or 4 times a season. You don't take, when you have such a horse bleep pass rush, you don't take your best pass rusher and drop them into coverage, for crying out loud. But Super Will has one. I'll throw this to you, Mike. I'll take, and let's get Chase Young from Washington. What do you think about the possibility of Chase Young?
I like the possibility of it. I don't think it's going to happen though, because apparently it's came out that they want like a ridiculous, haul for him.
Right.
Because he went so high, but the reality is they're getting pennies on the dollar if they get anything for Chase Young, because no team is trading a second or first round pick for a guy who is literally hitting free agency next year. So
kind of like Danielle Hunter. Kind of the
pretty
same
much,
situation.
Yeah.
Their situations do rather mirror each other. So there is that. As far as the rest of the draft here, particularly tonight with rounds 2 and 3, again, at the moment, the Vikings only have the 87th pick, which is a result of the TJ Hawkinson trade. And yes, every single one of us, as much as we don't like the fact that we don't have a second round pick right now, would make that deal over and over and over again. What do you see happening? Do you see him staying pat? Do you see him making a move? I know there's, the thought process is, I'd love to see him move up for Joey Porter, or other options would be Will Levis, a couple other guys that fell out of the first round that had first round.
John Michael Schmitz.
I mean, my affinity for the Gopher center here. I'd love to see him on this team as well. But what do you think the Vikings ultimately end up doing?
As much as it's intriguing to think about them giving up a 2024 pick and actually getting a future quarterback or something like that, I doubt it. I mean, unless they're in love with a player, and I mean in love, where like he's literally the top guy on their board and they're desperate to get him. I don't see it. And this is the thing. I actually think they trade down. Like you talked about, Justin, he wasted like 9 minutes yesterday. He tried to trade down. Let's just say it as it is. At least on Quessie's end, he wanted to move down.
Right.
KOC probably pushed against it, but Questie wanted to. He traded 6 times last year. You're not getting me to believe that guy's just going to stick and pick the rest of the way. No chance.
Well, last year, Kwesi didn't stick and pick once. He traded out of every slot that the Vikings were slated in, and some of the speculation was that, all right, will he have even one pick this year where he sticks and pick, or will he do the same thing again? And he already broke that mold yesterday. So I anticipate a lot of movement over the next couple of days. Now, the question is whether it's going to be cursory moves like, hey, we're going to trade up 10, 15 slots and give up a 6th-round pick, or whether it's something spectacularly splashy where, all right, we're going to take our 3rd and this player and a 4th next year and move up a round to, like, say, the back end of the 2nd round. I don't know. Me personally, I'm happy with whichever direction they go. Just don't overspend. Like I said, Will Levis, to me, again, it's a pipe dream, every bit as much of a pipe dream of getting, a Richardson or a Stroud and trading up all that. It's a pipe dream to assume that Will Levis is going to slip all the way down to 87. But, hey, Malik Willis did last year, so who the heck knows? But just don't overspend. To me, if you have to spend a little bit of capital to get a Will Levis, I'm okay with. But spending a 2nd or a 1st next year, I'm not down with that. That's just me, though. What do you think?
And, again, that's where it all depends on the value. Like I said, I trust these guys. They have a plan. They have the collaboration together. If KOC wants Will Levis, try your best to go and get him. But the thing is, you have to be confident in it. If you're not willing to get rid of his 2024 2nd, then stick and pick at 87 or move down and add assets. And honestly, if they don't take Will Levis, Justin, by being perfectly honest, just go Divas the rest of the way.
Just go Divas the rest of the way?
Yeah. I mean, unless you go Mo Ibrahim in the 7th, through picking up a pick, that's it.
If y'all could, if you didn't hit the like button on the way in, hit the like button for me and hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed to Purple and Go for Days, and also check out Mic'd Up Podcast. That is MIKEDUP Podcast. That's Mike and his compatriot Mike. And tell them a little bit about your channel. What do you guys cover? I know you guys cover more than just the Vikings. What do you guys got going on over there?
So we do all NFL and NHL content. We talk about the playoffs. When that comes around, we do the draft, mock drafts, one every single year for the NFL and the NHL. And at the end of the day, like, we just do general sports news. If there's a big trade, we'll break down, we'll do a video on it. But if anyone here, please feel free to leave a comment in my most recent video on the Aaron Rodgers trade. And say what video you'd like to see next. I 100% would do content on it if you let me know.
All righty, so put a comment on their page as well. I like Nano's comment here, though. Trade for Trey Lance or move up in 2024 for Addison's boy, Caleb Williams. Yeah, I don't know how that's possible.
Exactly.
I'll say it like this. If you're going to go under the guise of the Vikings are going to keep Kirk Cousins this season, well, then by definition, you have a minimum of 7 wins, and maybe you make it to the wild card or division round of the playoffs, in which case you're picking in the late teens, early 20s. Okay, we didn't want to pay the price this year. You're going to want to pay that price next year. I don't know. Would I love to see a Vikings offensive future of JJ, Addison, Williams, Hawkinson, and the tackles? Yes. If you could tell me a scenario how that can happen, I am all ears for it. I just don't see it. So let's circle to the other half of that conversation here. Your thoughts on Trey Lance, Mike? I don't know that you've said them on my channel per se, but what do you think of Trey Lance as a possibility, one way or the other?
I like it a lot more than I like the idea of trying to go up for Caleb Williams, because it's literally impossible. But let's just say this is no team is trading that number 1 pick next year, because there's Washington, Tampa Bay, countless other teams that don't have a quarterback that are going to be in position because they don't have a good team. So they're not going to trade it. So I honestly like the idea of Lance. I think if it's at the right price, you go and do it. The thing I don't like about it, Justin, is if you acquire him just to be Kirk's backup for a year, then you've completely destroyed the purpose of having him in the first place, or a big part of it, which is the rookie deal. But it's what it is.
Let me put it to you a different way. What if you traded after June 1st, you traded Kirk for Lance and a few other picks from San Francisco next season, and you just turned it over to Lance and you gave him a 1-year trial, and if it didn't work and you missed the playoffs and you have somewhere between picks, 7 and 13 as an example? I'd be a lot more in
on that, because at the end of the day, as much as I like Kirk Cousins, and I do, I own his jersey, at some point you have to move on. He's 35 years old. If you give him a 2-year extension, he'll be done at that contract by 37. Like, come on now. You know what I mean? We got to move on at some point.
Andrew's got a good point. A sneaky draft pick would be a guard here in the later rounds, because Cleveland might be asking for too much money. I think Evzer at this point is done being a guard. He came in as a tackle. Tackles get paid more money, so he might be on his last year here as well. I don't know the kid's name that he's referring to on USC, the guard that tore his ACL that he's referring to. But do you think the Vikings could be in line to take an interior offensive lineman here within the this weekend?
Possibly, but I doubt it. I do. Like I said, they retained Schlotman. They retained Oli Udoh, Brandell. I don't think they're looking to fix this O-line. I don't. I really don't think they're going to change it at all. And this is the other thing. A lot of us say, well, Ezra's going to leave a free agency. Yeah, he probably will. Guards are readily available at free agency every single year. Like, every year you can get a starting quality guard. So,
Mike Sports Vibes in the building. Thank you kindly for joining, Mike. Hey, I saw your vibes last night. They were awesome there. He says, I want trade Lance and trade Kirk for some picks. Lance is underrated, just needs a real opportunity. I can hear both sides of the Trey Lance opportunity, where he's, he doesn't have a lot of experience for the amount of years that he's been in this league. Some of it doing to him sitting out for a year, and some of it him being hurt. Do you think that Trey Lance would be somebody that Kevin O'Connell could mold into the next quarterback, Mike?
Yeah, no, I do. That's the thing that's weird about Trey Lance is it's the contract that throws me out, because if he's going to be a backup, you have 1 year. I mean, I guess you could do it, right? The Packers are doing it with Jordan Love, so it's not impossible. I don't know how I'd feel about it. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't be in love with the idea of having him back up Kirk Cousins when Kirk's probably leaving anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Mateos would rather have a bad season and take a chance. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that, but the way this organization runs, they don't intentionally go into it trying to not have a good season. They're always trying to make the playoffs, and that is the one downside of the Vikings' success, so to speak. They're rarely a bad team, which means they're rarely in position to get a franchise quarterback. And so if you're going to be a team that doesn't trade away, do what Chicago did last year. Maybe not to that full extent. I'm not saying completely tank it, but Chicago traded away players. They got assets for it, and they're hoping in the next 2 years that they're going to be in a better place than just sitting around the wild card round or the division round of the playoffs. But no, Mateo, I don't necessarily disagree with you at all from that perspective. Last thing, let's just go ahead and talk one last little bit about the Vikings first round pick, Jordan Addison here. Mm-hmm. He was asked the question last night, hey, do you think you and JJ will be the best duo in the league? And what's he going to say? No, I think there'll be 3 or 4 other teams that got better duos than us. I mean, it's like, I get it. You have to come up with some questions, and I'm not in the media. So it's I'm armchair quarterbacking what kind of questions I would ask a player that's just recently been drafted. But the thoughts of him and Addison, or Addison and JJ together, along with KJ Osborne and TJ Hawkinson, what do you think this is going to do for this Vikings offense moving forward here?
It needs to be a top 5 offense, right?
I agree.
When is time to say, Kirk, lead a top 5 offense? Like, when? And no disrespect to him, but now or never now. Pretty
much. I mean, we kind of said the same thing last year, which is, all right, you got an offensive-minded head coach. Now's the time. And he did the regular season, absolutely stepped up a little bit. It is unfortunate for Kirk that he's always going to just be remembered by that last play. And no, that's not the reason the Vikings lost that game at all. Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, really? You did just all these throw it to this, just throw it over the sticks. Just don't have that be the way the season ends. I agree. Even if it's incomplete, just throw it up. Yeah. But having said all that, I know that some people are just like, why are we addressing the offense when it's the defense that was the problem last year? Well, I'll remind people that in 1997, the Vikings stole a playoff game in the Giants Stadium, ultimately lost to San Francisco in the divisional round of the playoffs. And everybody said, we got Chris Carter and Jake Reed and Robert Smith, and we got Brad Johnson, the offensive line. Why are we taking a wide receiver? I'm certainly not putting Jordan Addison in the same category as Randy Moss, but having said that, there is something to be said where sometimes your better play from a team construction standpoint is to focus on the side that is stronger, because 1 or 2 players isn't going to make this defense great overnight. That's going to take a few more than just one player, and it's going to take a lot of coaching up. But you take a second wide receiver that will allow you to not say never, but there was times by the end of the season where it's just like, all right, we're going to put 3 guys on Justin Jefferson. We're going to let TJ Hawkinson eat, and we're going to, let the chips fall where they may. Yeah. Having said that, now you've got 3 very, very good wide receivers, whether it's KJ and Addison at 2 and 3 or 3 and 2 doesn't really matter. But having said all that, I like this pick. I honestly do. Because at the end of the day, yes, take your top 7 to 9 offense and make it a top 5 offense, and let the defensive chips fall where they may. Say Flores, hey, we're taking this guy to make the offense the best we can so we can constantly put up 30 points plus a game to give your defense more opportunities to have margin for error. What's up, Dorian? Good to see you. Thanks for jumping into the building. I appreciate you. And he says, this is D money, by the way, Mike. I'm assuming you know what that's about, but maybe not. But anyway,
D money, for Twitter,
cool. Yeah, D money. Thanks for joining. We appreciate you. With all that being said, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you already do so. We're going to wrap it up here in just a couple of minutes because I got to finish out my last part of the day for work and move on from there. So, any last final thoughts here as to what's your prediction, Mike? If there is such a thing as predicting drafts, because even mock drafters get them all wrong. But what do you think is ultimately going to happen tonight?
I want to touch on Addison first, then I will do that. I'll be quick, though, Justin.
No,
you got my word. So, with Addison, I cannot believe the amount of people that said we shouldn't have taken a receiver. Did you guys watch?
I agree.
How we couldn't stretch the field in big spots. Like, no respect to Thielen, Minnesota legend. He could not do it at the end of his career. Okay, like it is what it is.
No.
And this idea that they needed a defensive player. No, as you said, Justin, you need multiple resources. So if you spend the rest of the draft capital on the defense, that's your better chance to improve this defense, not one guy. And the Vikings have a great history of hitting receivers. Moss, Justin Jefferson, Percy Harvin, all in that 20s range. We hope and pray that Addison takes the torch there. Predictions for tonight. It's boring. Trade down, pick up probably a 5th or a 6th or a 6th and a 7th, and have a full draft class of 7 picks. That's my prediction.
Well, for me, I'm not going to make any predictions because I'm terrible at it. But if you can get me either Joey Porter Jr., and I realize that would require a trade up, or if you can get me John Michael Schmitz, and I know that's offense, and then spend the rest of the draft on defense, I don't care where else you go with that. That would make me one happy camper as a Vikings fan.
I do want to ask you quickly, Justin. Could Schmitz play guard for a year? Because they have Bradbury, is it possible or no?
He only played center at the University of Minnesota, so I don't know his profile well enough to be able to come up with an answer to that without just making stuff up. I could see it maybe, but to me, if that's the way you're going, that's taking a step backwards to what Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman did, and I don't want to do that. If we manage to get our hands on John Michael Schmitz, it's let him be the backup center, and if it becomes apparent that he needs to replace Garrett Bradbury, then so be it. Garrett Bradbury can ride the pine for the rest of the season, or try and trade him at the trade deadline. I just
wish they didn't sign him. I really wish they just didn't, because then we could have Schmitz, and then we'd be set.
Well, you'd have to, I agree. Ike is another name. Thank you, Mateo. You said that earlier, and I forgot to put that one up there too. But yes, Ike, John Michael Schmitz, or Joey Porter Jr. And I realize that that's going to take a lot to get any one of those three guys. But at the same time, I would be happy there. What's up, D. Will? Good to see you. I think those bad teams in the top 10 to 12 will be there again, and most have their quarterbacks. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Come on, Mouse. There we go. 3 teams, Titans, Vegas, Saints, trying to get back up top of the second. How many quarterback-needy teams do you think will be there next year? No, that's true. But when you're one of those top 5 teams, whether – let's just say, for example, Houston has the number 1 pick next year, even though they just took C.J. Stroud. Well, guess what? They're either going to take another quarterback and try to trade off C.J. Stroud if it doesn't work out very well, if he's the day 1 starter and it's apparent that he doesn't have it, or B, there are going to be a lot of teams bidding for that spot. And again, if we're going to assume that the Vikings are going to do what they always do, because right now this division is theirs to win. With all due respect, you know what? Let's do a little bit of roundtable and talk about the rest of the NFC North draft in a second here. But let me get some more shout outs here. G Mac, what's up? Greg, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. And of course, Sarah. Oh, yes, Giants were pissed that we took Addison away from them. You are absolutely correct. But
revenge.
Yes. You know what? We kind of owed them one. In fact, even with that, we still owe them one. But what in the heck are the Green Bay Packers thinking? What in the heck are the Detroit Lions thinking? And what in the world are the Chicago Bears thinking? This whole time, there's a part of me that's happy that Green Bay didn't take a wide receiver. But we said it on the stream last night, how hilarious it would be if they had taken – I mean, I'm glad they didn't take Jackson Smith and Jigba because I was really afraid that they were going to. I'm still surprised that they didn't, that they decided to take the tight end. But there was part of me that wanted them to take a wide receiver just to give one more middle finger to Aaron Rodgers. But I'm really surprised that they took a tight end yesterday, Mike. What were they thinking?
No, they took an edge. It was an edge. It was Lucas Van Ness. But
I'm sorry,
regardless – we thought they would take a tight. I don't know what to tell you, Justin. I mean, the Packers under Brian Gutekunst, they're a unique team. They really are. I remember they took A.J. Dillon a few years ago. He's a good player, but when they had Jones on a rookie deal, I don't know.
I don't get that one either. What about the Lions?
The Lions I loved it from a Vikings perspective. I like Jack Campbell, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He shouldn't have been going 18th.
No.
And it's bad.
Back in the top 10. Really?
You know it's bad when Jahmyr Gibbs himself says, "I was shocked the Lions took me at 12." And you know what's crazy? Even crazier. They said they would have been comfortable taking him at 6, which means they were fine passing on Bijan for the number 2 running back of the class. Mm-hmm. Detroit, you had a rough couple of weeks. Yeah. Davis Williams gets suspended. You had a chance to build up your D-line and secondary, and yet you drafted a linebacker and a running back. And the Bears, I think they did okay, but they reached a little bit. Done all right. They did.
I had it up here, but shout out Drop Shot. Thanks for joining. We appreciate you, man. We honestly do. And I'm going to say it like this. Talk about the rich getting richer. Philadelphia. Just call them Georgia North, for crying out loud. Their defensive line was already pretty daggone good, and they just added a couple more studs to that defensive line. We can talk about all this stuff about our defense and about our offense and Kirk Cousins this, Kirk Cousins that. Philadelphia is still the team to beat in this conference, and that there's just no two ways about it.
It's them or the Niners. I don't disagree. It's those two teams, and there's everyone else.
Put it in the comments section. What do you guys think the Vikings should do? Yeah, Philly Bulldogs. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate you. I was just going to say, put it in the comment section here while we wrap this up. We're going to go about another 5 minutes or so. We'll just go round up to about the top of the hour here. But put it in the comment section. Where do you want the Vikings to go with the rest of this draft, particularly the draft tonight in rounds 2 and 3? Mind you, again, we only have a third-round draft pick, and, we don't want to be spending like drunken sailors. But put it in the comments of who you guys want to see in the Vikings take this afternoon and this evening here. Philly Bulldogs, Philly Bullies, D. Will and G. Mac have got some nice names in there for them. But as far as the Packers go, whatever, you had an opportunity to give your young quarterback. I know you got Watson last year, but you put Watson and Smith and Jigba on that team together for Jordan Love, to give him every possible weapon to say, no, we're going to buck this trend again. Everybody in the world thinks that we're not going to be able to run the quarterback carousel from one Hall of Famer to another Hall of Famer to another Hall of Famer. I'm not saying that makes Jordan Love a Hall of Famer, but I'm just really, really surprised that they did not take a wide receiver. I'm just going to leave it at that. What's going on here? Let's get some more comments up in here. Sarah's just like, Lions could have had what Philly had. Exactly. The Lions could have had, they could have bolstered their defensive line to go with their offense. Mateo had already pushed Ika or Rush, cornerback from South Carolina. I like that. What's up, Dylan? Late for this one. Great show last night. Love the Addison pick. Hey, so do we. And yes, it was a lot of fun. And for those of you who didn't have a chance to tap in, it's right on the top of the page on Purple and Go for Days. It was a 4.5-hour stream, I think, when it was all said and done. But we had myself, we had Mike, we had Rap from Purple Pocket Podcast, Dave from Minnesota Sports Talk, GG from GG Sports Talk, as well as SK from Purple and Skull Media. We also had Alexander Madison's father on for a great portion of the time. So if you didn't have a chance to tap in and you want some more coverage, particularly around when the Vikings pick came up, it was absolutely a lot of fun there as well. G-Mac thinks we stay put and gets 2 or 3 depth guys. That's all we can do. Yeah, there's something to be said to that. What's up, Viking Central? Good to see you. Thanks for tapping in. I want to see them go running back at some point. Taj Spears, please. What round would Taj Spears end up being? Would he
high,
be
like second or third?
Yeah.
I highly push back on the guys. We got to give Madison his opportunity to be RB1. We just drafted Ty Chandler. We haven't seen him. I'm all for taking a running back late.
Yeah.
I do not want one between rounds 2 and 4. I'm sorry. I don't. This defense needs to be built up. It just does.
If y'all ain't tapped in with Viking Central Podcast, give them a subscribe on YouTube there. I actually made an appearance on there a week and a half ago, and hopefully we'll be able to get some together there again as well. But they put out some great content last night, had some good wrap-up episodes there as well. Sarah says, I think I was the biggest winner. Yes, Sarah did win. What she win? 2 or 3 different of those giveaways that we did. There you go.
She won the 100-meter or the 100-yard race, right? I'm pretty sure.
That's right. She won the big one at the end. That's right. She did. D. Will says if 49ers and Philly play this year, that GM will be crazy. Yeah, well, it will be. It probably will be. Running backs will be UDFs. Yeah, probably. I'll stump for my guy Mo Ibrahim. You know me, tied into the Gophers, whatever else. But I wouldn't mind taking him in the 5th or 6th round to get another guy in here. But I don't know that I'm talking about taking one in the 3rd or 4th round. No, they can't. They can't. Dylan, I said this earlier before you got here, but he says I want DTR in the mid rounds, just something exciting preseason football. We definitely create some intrigue. I'm with you. DTR. Stetson Bennett. Come on, Stetson Bennett. No, 6th round, baby. Stetson Bennett. No on Stetson Bennett for me. I would, like I said, I would love to, if the Vikings on tomorrow, got DTR, even in the 4th round, even if they traded up in the 4th round to get him, or heck, even if somehow, some way they traded back in the 3rd round today and accumulated some more picks and ended the round with DTR today, I wouldn't be upset by that. I really wouldn't. Viking Central Spears could be picked 158. I expect him to be a 5th rounder. Okay. Okay. Now I'm listening. If it was 3rd or 4th, I don't know about that. But okay, if it's 5th round and you can, if he falls, fine. Like, if one of these running backs are available in the 5th round, they're high on him. Okay, sure. But nothing higher than the 5th. I would agree. Let's see here. What did Mateo throw in there? Since we want to be biased with players, there are 2 LSU corners who are 6'2". One of them is almost 220. Okay, well. Just fans institution. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Hit those like buttons on your way out. If you didn't hit them on the way in, hit the subscribe button if you don't already subscribe to either Purple and Gopher Days or Mic'd Up Podcast or the family of Purple and Scold Media. And that's again Purple Pocket Podcast, GG Sports, Minnesota Sports Talk, and of course the mothership First and Scold Media. I want to thank everybody who tapped in this afternoon as well as everybody who tapped in last night. If you missed any part of the show, go back and watch that. There's right on the top of Purple and Gold for Days. Mike, any final thoughts and final comments before we get out of here about the rest of the draft for the Vikings here?
If you can't get Will Levis, build up that defense, please.
I'll be happy with DTR. The only guys I want to trade up for are Ika, like Mateo said, Joey Porter Jr., John Michael Schmitz. Those guys I'm willing to trade up for. Other than that, let's just go back. All right. D. Will has the question. DTR or Hooker? I say DTR because you can get him later. But we didn't talk about Hendon Hooker, so we'll wrap that up. 2-minute flashbang.
Sure.
Hendon Hooker.
No. I mean, if he falls to 87, fine, but
right.
It wouldn't be my first choice. If I had to pick between the two, I'd rather pick DTR, but I'm not crazy high on either of them. I'd rather go for like a late flyer like Malik Cunningham, if you want to go a prospect who's athletic at quarterback.
I would rather have DTR. I know Hendon Hooker's got some skills, but that injury again, Teddy never recovered from his. And I'm not saying that his injury was as bad as Teddy's was, but, when East Coast Gridiron was on with us for the last couple of weeks, when he saw him at the Senior Bowl, it wasn't just a knee brace. He had a full leg brace on. And to me, he's not going to be able to do much this season, I don't think. And part of taking a rookie quarterback and sitting him behind the veteran is to be able to take mental reps, to be able to run the practice squad, to be able to do all those other things. And when he's not going to be able to do any of that until October or November because he's recovering from a devastating knee injury, I'm sorry. Again, if he was not injured, I would have loved to have had them take him at 23 yesterday. I would have had him right behind Richardson, still above Levis and company. But I'm sorry, at this particular point, his age doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some people, but it's more that injury. If he wasn't injured, then I'm far more in on him than I am now. Mateo's like, I don't want a quarterback who will need to get his AARP card soon. What a great line to end the show with. Well, I want to thank everybody for tapping in with us here. Hit the like button, subscribe, and we will catch you on the flip side. Mike, thanks for joining me this afternoon. Appreciate you, boss.
No worries. Peace.
All righty. Just once before we die, one Super Bowl, once before we die. It's been a while since we've done the bit, so let's do it here. Everybody have a great rest of your evening. Skol Wild and Skol Vikings for the rest of the NFL draft. Good afternoon.